Welcome back, everybody, to our Sustainability Lounge, where we have our critical conversations with global thought leaders that are doing some really impactful work around sustainability. And today I have another amazing guest, and Helene Thibieroz is the CEO and co founder of Rainlons. And Helene joins us from Paris today, but we've been having this conversation of in this field, you tend to be very much a global sustainability lead, right? So it's wherever this journey takes you. And Helene and I have worked together before on other projects. And Helene, I know that you've been doing some amazing work and you've been sharing some success you've been having with some of your prototypes. And I would love to hear more about the work that you're currently doing right now, some of the success, and also to give our participants some insights into prototyping. So, welcome, Helene.
Thank you, Sam. It's always a pleasure to work together. So my background, right, it's technology. Started as a technologist, work with corporation, large technology corporation for 20 plus years, working on innovation at scale, sales, understanding all the facets. And 6 years ago, I created a consulting firm, We Grow Green Tech, with an emphasis on green technology. And that's when I really start understanding, going from having experience with corporation, what it takes to go to a different phase of product development, to like being a startup and trying to make it. And I think the prototyping aspect is a key aspect in innovation at scale. To take, for example, the latest company I work with, Renayon, because I work in a lot of different fields. Renayon is a climate tech company. It's a technology to remove CO2 and air pollution at the exhaust and in the air. Um, so the prototyping aspect is key. Um, when they approached me, when the founder of Renayon approached me, it was at the concept level. And corporation as today, it's all about minimizing risk, right? We have entered an era where cost is about, it's a key aspect in development, where there's many challenges in innovation and research and development. So for any startup to start getting traction with a corporation, you do need a prototype, some type of proof of concept. Typically, what used to be that in terms of prototyping, you have something called technology readiness level. So when you have a working prototype, you have what's called TRL6. But then you have like different phase that needs to be achieved. And depending of the corporation you talk to, they may be comfortable with a level 6 if they're true innovators. They may be comfortable at something like in 9, which kind of more correspond to something that's ready for commercialization. So the prototyping aspect is really challenging for a startup. To give you an example with Renayon, for example, with the pandemic, it was extremely difficult for a team that was remote to build a prototype, to get the resource, to find the right partners. So I think any startup today that is an exciting technology, um, I'm going to guarantee there's going to be some frustration. You're going to need to be resilient because building a prototype is not easy these days.
And when you come to talk about that resilience and the prototype, because I think you actually get lots of insights more from experimentation and making the mistakes and re-going back to the lab and testing again and always not getting worried about not being perfect, correct?
Correct. And I think that's if for any founders that's listening to this talk today, I'm going to share my experience because with Renayan, we have encountered so many setbacks, so many times when we get frustrated, disappointed, because when you're doing something that's true innovation, it's hard. It's really hard. And I'm sending kudos to all the founders out there that are doing the same thing because you always face times where you're running out maybe on money, running out of resources, when something wrong, because you're doing something new, right? Really innovative. So you're pushing the envelope. And I think you have to always remember, if you go back in history, right, there's a story that says that the inventor of the electric bulb, Edison, that it took him 1,000 iteration. So I always go back to it, telling my team the story, because you tried a few times and you're like, this is too hard. But 100 years ago, some people have been through the same journey, facing the same disappointment. So it's just, I think the people that really manage to go to prototype are truly resilient, because I think
Mm.
it gives unique strengths, definitively, because you experience a lot of setback. But once you get the prototype, that's actually the first stage when you can really start to get exciting at possible innovation. But you also have to be humble, because having a
Mm.
prototype doesn't mean you made it. It just means you've made the first step, right? And there's many more going your way in terms of innovation at scale.
It's so fascinating because you make me think about how we use that term pivot, where you have to pivot, throughout that entire journey of prototyping. Can you give us some examples where you've started to, go down in one direction, and you tested, you went out to the field, you got some data, and then once you collected that data, you thought, oh, we need to change, we need to shift strategy. Has there been any major pivots in what you've been doing? Yeah.
Always. And I have this experience working with corporation already. So I saw I'm kind of prepared, right? Working in a startup world. But when you work in a startup world, it's double fold, because you don't have as much resources. So any iteration that's failed iteration is way more important. That's for a corporation. That's like there's more room for mistake. So in the case of Renayan, for example, um, our technology is true leading edge, but it requires some of the. So there's two technology: direct air capture and transformation, what we call transformation technology at the exhaust. That one require very specific coating. Initially, we didn't have this expertise, so we find a partner. It took
Mm.
us to talk to 50 coating company. The one that tried, they couldn't find a solution. So at that point, right, we were ready to say, "Oh, it's too hard."
Yeah.
But we keep persisting. We actually find a great coaching partner with amazing expertise that we built for many years. They were able to do the coaching for us. We had over regarding, anything you do today, either hardware or software, and specifically hardware. Um, there's a problem with material. A lot of
Mm.
material that we use is starting to be depleted. There's a problem of resources. If you do anything globally, right, the pandemic has created additional challenge around having like international partners.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's the people dynamic as well within the team, which is, I think, as a CEO, the one you have to look at. When people start to get frustrated, tired, exhausted, right?
Mm.
Because the strengths of your technology is a team, is having technologies that keeps being motivated, excited by what they do. And, like the people component is a pretty strong one in any startup. So as you face your startup, it's hard to find resources, it's hard to find people that truly as motivated as your team that really want to help. So I think you have all these dynamic to take in account. It's also mostly about people. Like
Mm.
find, and I think that's what I love the field of sustainability, because when you find people that really care, they're gonna be resilient. They're not just here to make quick profit, to build a company and
Mhm.
say, "Hey, I did it." They did because they have a mission, because they want to do something bigger than just themselves. And as a result, you get people that are more resilient, that are going to be like really going the extra mile in a context of a startup to try to establish the right technology.
Amazing. And it's really interesting because we as startups are always thinking about the bootlegging section, friends and family and fools, and then obviously once you get that traction and you're demonstrating reliable data, and you're able to confirm and to rebuild that, I guess, as you say, that really helps, I think, that momentum and that motivation of the team in these current challenging times with supply chain. As you say, it's very difficult to show that progress and to keep that progress at a real high growth stage, right? Yeah, and I guess it's what you were mentioning as a leader, that you really need to be really consistent with your motivation, and to keep the team, right?
But it's hard and beautiful in the same time because, like, if you by yourself, if I would have been by myself or the founder by myself, I bet you at some point, I like to think I'll be resilient, but I bet you maybe at some point I would think it's too hard. But when you have a team of people, right?
Mm,
At some point, maybe somebody is going to be done, and it's going to be, it's too hard. And the other people are going to be there to sustain it. So there is kind of like an added resilience as a team. And I think as you face, like a startup are facing more and more challenging environment, more and more things to do, less and less free money doesn't exist anymore, right? You
mm,
really have to prove you're going to work hard, your product is going to work. I think having a strong team that is all, and it has, the beauty of Reliant, I think, and as other companies that I work with, is when you have people from different backgrounds, well, you will think there is potential for, challenges because the background is very different, but not if they share really the same mission and
mhm,
they all want to converge and see this technology happen. And then it creates a beautiful environment because people from listening to each other trying to converge and create
mhm.
something that could have an impact.
Yeah, no, that's so important, and it's that convergence of ideas and that sharing of thinking differently and seeing that through different lens that often takes you to a different, solution, or a different way of approaching the challenge or the problem. Do you mind sharing? It's just fascinating to understand that you've built technology that actually removes at exhaust CO2. Can Are you able to share a little bit about that right now, or it's just fascinating? I mean, we're probably all thinking, "Wow, how does that happen?"
So this is exactly how I felt when the founder approached me. When he said, okay, we can remove air pollution and CO2, and I start looking at the technology, using nature, using mineral available in the nature, having a simple solution where you can transform air pollution and CO2 into something safe.
Hmm.
I'm like, this is too good to be true. Why are we
Mm,
doing some complex innovation if this is a technology that could
yeah,
be used?
yeah.
So I start, I have a W background, so I start really looking into like understanding at the biomimicry level what was happening. And at that point, it was concept level. It means that the founder spent years of his life researching air pollution and CO2. So the
Mm,
concept he put together is actually a concept elaborated from all the scientific publication he find globally, looking at what people have done in his field. So when I looked at the innovation itself, I was fascinated. I learned from previous mistakes when I got excited about technology and I want to help founders and I say, let's do
mm,
it. And I didn't really look deep enough into the business dynamics.
hmm.
So I learned from previous mistakes to always look, can it be scaled? Because
Yes.
otherwise, it's a great idea that could have a local impact, but not some bigger project that could have a quite global
Hmm.
impact.
Hmm.
And so in that case, I was fascinated because the mineral that were being used for this technology are inexpensive. When you look at the mining problem today, what green technology has caused is a growing awareness of the type of material that are being used in clean tech and climate tech, the cost of mining, the price, the
Hmm.
sustainability, the scalability challenging potentially, the geopolitical problem. And so I looked at it, and none of the mineral that we were using we're presenting this kind of profile. So,
Mm.
and the cost for, just for example, the transformation technology itself, the cost of either creating a new device or retrofitting the technology is really low. Think about, for example, if you take any industry, you either have the capacity to retrofit the industry. So if you can retrofit one segment of it, that's much cheaper. Consumer don't have to change. For a
Mhm.
corporation, in terms of cost, it's more sustainable as well. Um, versus having to scale a new type of innovation that could be necessary for medium to long term, right? Such as renewable energy. But there is big challenges in front of us. And with the time span that we have to resolve both excess of CO2 and air pollution,
Mhm.
you started to see a lot of risk associated with that between material availability, accelerating consumer adoption, a geopolitical tension,
Mhm.
wars, famine, food shortage, even down to shipping sometimes, right? Like being able
Mhm.
to kind of have access to some of the necessary element for supply. So I've made technology that I call transition technology
Mhm.
to start removing air pollution and CO2 now because you can do some retrofitting at the exhaust. I think it's an amazing innovation that for this decade could start resolving big problem as we're pushing over technology, right? And I think more and more, you look, for example, I was reading about France. They expecting the price of energy to be 10 times higher between last year and this year due to, sadly, war in Ukraine. They have
Mhm.
nuclear energy, but they find out some of the nuclear plant are are not safe, so they're gonna need
Mhm.
some to work. When you look at the global ecosystem that we have, that's becoming so complicated. I think you really need an hybrid portfolio of technology, not be only, as you and I
Mm.
talk, like focusing on only
Yes.
one, but not it, right? And kind of
Yes.
looking at the future of net zero is really
Mhm.
gonna be a portfolio. At one end, trying to minimize the impact of older technology while we scale this newer technology and also remove because when we introduce net zero electrification, solar
Mhm.
energy, even wind energy, we didn't really think much about circularity. And that makes sense because the first topic was we want to remove air pollution, CO2,
Mhm.
and potentially air pollution as well. But we
Right.
didn't look at the supply chain. So now we have to come back
Ah.
and address innovation for the thing that is causing it not to be net zero or not to be fully circular.
Mm.
That takes some innovation and some
Mm.
time. I think introducing other type of technology to create less CO2 air pollution, even like we have a direct air capture technology based on the performance. They use the same core technology based on the performance of our transformation technology at the exhaust. The direct air capture system that we have would be extremely low cost, could potentially apply not only to CO2 but also other type of air pollutant, like such
Mhm.
as city in India. We have a few pilots that we want to start in really polluted cities.
Mhm.
I think it's a technology that could have a huge impact today because
Mhm.
it's a little simpler. It doesn't, for some geographies where renewable energy electrification is not really available yet, I think you can start doing some transition there.
Amazing. I hear some incredible opportunities coming up. And that circular economy is so important. And the fact that too that you brought up the biomimicry, we've got so much really to learn from our session with you today. And excited to hear more about your journey as always. And we'd also like to invite you back because at the end of our Impact 10X, which goes over for 6 weeks, we have our demo day. And it would be wonderful to, if you have the time in October, to come back and really sort of see where we've taken this journey and who you've inspired. You always inspire, as
I
always.
I would be happy. I'd be happy to. I'm always delighted. You have you made such an impact with entrepreneur and then
Yeah.
that I follow. It's like it's a pleasure to work with you.
Excellent. Well, we thank you so much because I know that you're traveling and you've got lots going on, and the fact that you again spent some of your precious time, and you always inspire us to prototype better and to always think about those important things of can it scale? Does it meet our customer needs? All of those important impacts. So, thank you so
Uh,
much. Thank you,
my
thank you,
pleasure.
thank you. And we
Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing you again, and we'll see you at Demo Day.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Ciao. Bye bye.